Hello, everybody. Welcome to Informatics 109. Hopefully, this is going to be a fun summer. Last summer, I kind of revamped the course, the way this course was approached. Well, I'll go ahead and jump into it. One of the big things about this course, everybody in the School of IT has to take this, and the number and no prerequisites is kind of a clear indicator that this is one of the usually a first semester course or very near the first semester. I like to generally describe it as sort of a vocabulary class. It's where we learn to speak like an IT person. Hello, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right. Can I get your name real quick?
Molly.
Okay. Oh yeah, so sort of a vocabulary class, learn to speak like an IT person, pick up the language, all the acronyms and stuff. And there's with Ivy online classes, those are all standardized across the state, and a lot of campuses would always use those course shells. But the current one for this course has lots and lots and lots of essays to practice that IT vocabulary. Lots and lots of essays, like sometimes 3 essays a week, and not like one paragraph essays, like 400 to 500 word essays in a week. So I sat down and revamped this course for here at Sellersburg last summer and tried to adjust it to hands-on. So we're learning IT vocabulary. We can do that while taking apart a computer and putting it back together, right? Because no, we can do things other than just type essays to practice the words and stuff. Try to set it up with labs every week. The other big part of this course is sort of a survey aspect. There's 8 different programs in the School of IT, and everybody's in different ones. All of them have to take this course somewhere near the beginning. So we have 8 modules, so that lines up pretty nicely. First module is kind of an introduction one, so it doesn't perfectly line up. So we need that introduction time, but basically every week we will be looking at what's a different program for the School of IT. Hardware, which relates to the IT support program, cybersecurities, I think module 6, virtualization relates heavily to the cloud technologies degree, software development. And you're probably already registered for a program. Something I like to point out, everybody comes here to get that good paycheck, right? Get the degrees, you can get a good IT job and make good money. And all of IT pays really well. The lowest paying field in IT is still a pretty good paycheck. So if you're doing what you really like, what you enjoy, and you're just happy and you really enjoy it, happiness is worth a lot. If you're just going purely for the paycheck, data analytics is probably the highest paying. Or data analytics is almost always the highest paying starting and median salary. But all of IT pays pretty well. So just quick introduction. We'll talk about what informatics and stuff is and kind of what we're doing with all of this. I guess to start off with, we should probably look at course policies. When I glanced at the roster earlier, I didn't see a whole lot of names I didn't recognize a whole lot of names. So some of y'all may not haven't seen my setup for course policies before, and I do that. Some things a little bit different. So I'm gonna open up the syllabus, and well, everybody here can read, so we're not gonna go through every word in the syllabus. Just hit up some key points and make sure you know where it is. Is this anybody's very first semester at Ivy Tech? So like the first day here? Yeah, it is. We have a really nice campus here in Sellersburg. It often surprises people who say community college, and you think of like, well, I always think of when I lived in Statesboro, Georgia, the community college was in an old strip mall. People think of that, and then we have a really, really nice campus, multiple buildings, nice courtyards and fountains. Not what first pops to mind when somebody says community college. Well, welcome to Ivy Tech. I guess I should do the introductions. I'm Chris. I do go by my first name. Don't worry about any formalities with me. I'm one of the chairs for School of IT here at Sellersburg. For those in the classroom, my office is straight across the hall from our classroom here. If you walk out the door of the classroom and just walk straight, you'll basically walk into my office. If you ever need anything, let me know. You'll see my contact info in the syllabus and stuff. And it doesn't just have to be while you're in my class. So when was it? I guess about a week and a half ago, I was communicating with students who graduated a year and a half ago. They finished school and everything, and just still reached out because they had some questions they thought I knew the answer to that would help with their current job. So keep track of my contact info once we see that. Oh yeah, I grabbed the paper. Here's your name real quick.
Benjamin Gunn?
Do you go by Ben or?
Ben's fine.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I should have asked it that way. What name do you go by? So, just getting started looking at some policies. Has everybody been able to find Ivy Learn? On the screen there, ivylearn.ivytech.edu. That's going to be the learning management system. It's based off Canvas. Ivy Tech really likes to, what people call it, IVI's thing. They'll take some software like Canvas, one of the most popular learning management software things, and throw along a green style sheet and put the Ivy Tech logo and icons all over it. And they do that with all sorts of software, Salesforce, and yeah, lots of different things. They like to customize the software. So anybody heading into software development, that's something you will often do as well, is maybe not make a complete piece of software. You work for somebody that like, oh, we really like this software. We want it to match our company. So then you go in and just make those little adjustments, change the access and authorization and all that things to fit the policies. Lots of different levels of things. That just seemed like it was worth mentioning. This is an introductory class, so I will quite often take little side steps and just think of something that might be useful for you all, or if you have questions, please feel free to, I'll come in with a plan every day, but if the plan doesn't relate to your particular interest in the field, like maybe we're in the week where we're studying software development, that's the thing I teach most often. And that's the program you're in, and you want to go ask some details or go kind of a different route than the plan, feel free to ask. We'll go down that. This is an introduction class, right? We're not finalizing it. It's, most of what we see is going to be in preview mode, kind of see all the pieces. Okay, so back to that little distraction, but yeah, please feel free to ask. And if you're on the Zoom call, I know they have a hand gesture and all that. If you're on the Zoom call, just unmute and interrupt me. It's best to ask the question when it pops in your mind, and since like elementary school, they drilled it in our heads, so raise your hand and wait patiently, but that doesn't work on a Zoom call. I might not notice the little hand gesture. So if you have a question, it's best to ask those immediately. So just unmute and interrupt me as soon as you have a question. Okay, so to go on our course, everybody will find that okay? Okay. Yeah, and this batch, a lot of people's first semester. So up at the top, my information, I do go by Chris. There's my cell phone and my office phone. The cell phone is probably the best way to get a hold of me. I'm have links written somewhere later in the syllabus. But during the semester, you all know how modern world is. There's a lot of things that want to push out notifications. Everybody wants to push out notifications. So during the semesters when courses are running, the only two things that make noise on my phone are text messages and the Ivy Learn inbox. So there's an official message channel right in our learning management system. Come over to the inbox, and it's basically an email functionality. They tried to use some of their own icons. So what would normally be an edit icon is the new email. I don't make that decision, but the pencil, the international standard for edit button, is apparently a new button in Canvas. But you click that, and then you can choose from the courses. So we're in 26M. The M is the Sellersburg campus, so that letter stands for which one it is. So P is online, M is Sellersburg. It's quite a few in one state, and then the the number before it is what time of day it is. So the low numbers are in the morning. The middle numbers like 26 is afternoon class, and then 51 is the evening class. So it filters down to just our course, and instead of just a general email program, filter down. Let's click on my own name here. Filtered down that way. And during the semester, the inbox here and text messages are the only two things that make noise on my phone. So those are the quickest ways to get a hold of me. Any way you need to contact me is fine. My office is straight across the hall from our classroom. I'm in there quite a bit. So I have office hours Monday, Wednesday, and then right after our class, I guess kind of like lunch break. My next class is until 6 o'clock, so it's like lunch break. I'll be in my office if you need me there. Anytime I'm in the office, I am also logged on to Zoom, so you got to come to campus for office hours. On Monday and Wednesday afternoons after this is my schedule has listed as administrative hours. So from 2 to 4:30, I'm also sitting in the office, generally doing administrative type work with for the chair position. But if I'm in my office, I'm in my office. So 2 to 4:30, I'm also sitting in the office. If you need to get a hold of me, I may not be on the Zoom call at that point, but I'm just sitting on. I'm also go office hours on Sunday. We'll get to due date before long, but most of your classes, you probably noticed, things are always due Sunday at midnight. I'm not in my class, we'll talk about that before long. But Sunday afternoon, people are doing their office meeting Monday morning. Not a lot of people are doing their homework on Monday morning. So I have the office hour schedule there, but that's not necessarily the time that a lot of people are going to have questions about homework and stuff. So I also do office hours for an hour on Sunday from 4 to 5, and that is on a Zoom call. Campus is closed on Sundays, so can't even get to the office. But the same Zoom link here, and I'll just be sitting I'll be on that Zoom call every Sunday. I used to also do the chat room right in Ivy Learn, but nobody ever came to the chat room. Every once in a while, a message will pop up in the chat room saying, "Can we hop on Zoom?" So I just kind of dropped the chat room from there. This one's fairly new. I want to give VR office hours a try. Zoom's regular language stuff, but Mozilla, you might know the name from the internet browser, is sort of the biggest product. They made a three-dimensional world for meetings, I guess is what it is. So it is a convention sort of thing, kind of like Zoom call, only it's instead of just the little thumbnail like a Zoom call, it's a 3D world. Normal game controls, like if you're on a laptop, WASD keys, Q and E to rotate your character. Normal controls there, and it works on regular desktop, laptop, computers, VR, or phone. And everybody that tried it agrees that the phone has the best controls. They have a really nice joystick-like button for the touchscreen on the phone. But I'll keep that up. So if anybody's got wants to try to do VR office hours, let me know. I don't have a set time for it, but I do always keep the headset in my amongst the equipment that I carry in my backpack. So you can jump on there and kind of work out the kinks, because that's a good way to meet and interact. So yeah, communication channel, and like I was saying earlier, keep this number. A couple weeks ago or recently, that's not the only time it's happened. After people graduate, I'll still, if you have a question when you're out in the room, anything I know the answer to, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. So then the top of the syllabus is a bunch of departments: ed tech, educational technology. That's the subset of Ivy Tech's IT department that is in charge of Ivy Learn, so the learning management system. If you have problems with IBM, check that, or reach out to me. I don't contact most of those people directly, but there's the official channel for that. We currently don't have a Sellersburg function in charge of Ivy Learn. So if there's any Ivy Learn problems, they get directed to the systems office up in Indianapolis and then around the state to, it might be some Fort, whoever the ed tech person is on Fort Wayne campus might be the one that's got a moment to help you until we find one. Interviews have started for that position, I think. So hopefully we'll have a person for that before the end of the summer. But currently it just gets redirected, and I know all about people around the state, and I think they're contact info. So I would be the first person to contact if there's a problem with that. Disabilities, pretty straightforward. I think everybody knows how modern work is. If you need accommodations, they're available. One thing I like to pause and point out here, because a lot of people are surprised coming out of high school and into college, because up through high school, that's all automated for you. You never have to think about it at all. You don't have to do anything. But when you graduate high school, get 18, that becomes private information. So it's not a fully automated process. You have to take the first step and let us know you need accommodations. After that, then it's like you might be used to from high school, and everything just rolls along. They'll send me the letter, they'll send me the list of things to do all the adjustment. But once you become an adult, or if you are teenagers, still below that arbitrary line, right? If you're in a college course, you're in a middle situation, so you're gonna start treating you that way, and it is that gets treated as adult, so that gets treated as personal private information. It's not already known by the school system like it is in high school, so that catches a lot of people off guard coming out of high school into college. They don't realize they have to take that first step. There's some really awesome people in that department. If you'd like, I'll walk down there and introduce you to them. Really nice people, and help take that first step. But the first step is necessary so to get everything rolling. Learning Commons is where the tutoring's at. Right before, or not right before class, but on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, I will be down in the tutoring center. There is IT help in the tutoring here at Sellersburg. All sorts of tutoring. You can see the schedule there. I'm not sure if the schedule's on that page. I should look at that. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I'm in there from 10:30 to noon on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Right before our class. And I'll skip in the Tuesday and Thursday, same time as our class. So if our class ends early and you want to get somebody else's opinion about something, the former dean still does some adjunct, teaches adjunct and comes into tutoring hours. So if our class ends early, it'll be down there in the tutoring center, which is currently in the main hall. So if you come in that big glass wall up front, head down the tiled hallway, like you're going to the academic advisor's office, right in that. It's currently in the next room past that. G8, it's right there in the tiled hallway, because the normal location is under construction right now. Well, the construction is finished on it, but the new fire doors were back ordered. So they won't come in until later this summer. So we move in there until they put up the fire doors. Everything else is finished. But that's the one, and what used to be the library is going to be called Learning Commons now. The big glass wall that faces the interstate, you can see. So there's a nice view we can study in there. It's going to be a really nice study spot. But building codes and fire marshal codes and all that, you can't use that space until the fire doors come in. Safety issue. Student life clubs and things. There's a technology oriented club, has events regularly and stuff. I'll try to let y'all know when there's events and stuff. Proctor testing, library, you can read through a lot of this. Everybody's here for the same reason, right? To get that paperwork, to get a good job, make good money. There's a department that helps with that. link that help with resumes, practice for interviews, get all that stuff, all the job search stuff. And not just for students after you graduate from Ivy Tech, that it's still available for Ivy Tech alumni. But really, really helpful department, and that's what I'm to school for. So it's definitely worth it to take advantage of those things. This one you might want to take note of: if there's ever an issue that you feel should be escalated, my supervisor, here's our contact info. The office is over in the other hall on the other side of the courtyard. Like we walk straight out and go past the fountain that way. And then those doors for offices over. Slow to fairly. Who cares? I was like with this one. So there's other books too. Positive disability accommodation thing. Help available for those people that would be in that situation. Right? This is American 2023. There's lots of help out there. I don't know that, but finding that help can be a bit of a problem. Right? If you need the help, you start searching and try to find the application for it, checklist of qualifications and all that, and you're spending forever just looking around to see where it's at. Well, somebody took the time to put together a database, not directly to the help, but just a database of links to that help, so you can go to one place to check and see what's out there. I was like, this one, because everyone needs a little help from me. There's that zip code. And the link that says ivassist.antbertha.com are really useful ones. So this shows all the programs. So 2,121 programs. And it updates in live time. So like in the second 8-week term in the spring, I did that in the afternoon class, there was a number there, and I pointed that out again in the evening class, first day class, there was a different number there. So it updates in live time. Lots of different things. You need help for. Let's see if this is still here. They're paid for gas. Maybe it's under transportation, help pay for gas. This is still here. Oh, yep. So, this has been going on a long time. But if you didn't know, anybody that worked in the restaurant, when everything shut down in 2020, the government paid for your gas for a while. Because all those people that lived off tips suddenly lost their tips. And that program hasn't run out of money yet. So it's just going to keep going. So if you worked in a restaurant before COVID shut everything down, you can still get your gas paid for. That's a useful one. Child care, that's a behind Zoom. I can move Zoom pictures out of the way. Is there child care here? I was expecting daycare here. Oh, there it is. Care and daycare centers. So lots and lots of help is available. We all know that about America. But we don't have to spend hours searching to see what's there and finding the list to see if we qualify, and then more time spent searching to figure out where the application for it is. Somebody put all the links to all of that in one spot. Or food, that's a useful one. There's a food pantry here on Ivy Tech. That's probably the, if you're a student here, that might be the most convenient food pantry. But there's lots and lots and lots of food pantries all over the place. So a very useful link. I would point that one out. On the contact group for the departments that good. Y'all can read, look through that. Oh, now we some course material. So the requiring text, the book is available. I'm going to go ahead and say just an ebook. It's written down in a few places. The book I chose when I revamped the course. It's written down in a few places. There's print options available. could not seem to find one when somebody actually requested one. Like I directly, this engaged sales representative came by my office and we went back and forth. And what ended up happening is really nice people over in the disability accommodations office just decided to print it out. Like, well, we'll go print out 400 pages of the book because nobody seems to have a print on there. So this is an ebook. I thought there would be a print version available. I kind of like the way this one was set up. If when we go to modules, this is going to be your go-to spot for those that are new. There's multiple ways to see what your assignments are. We'll look at a couple of them, but modules are the recommended order to do things in all of the courses. So that's kind of, it breaks down. All of the courses are going to be 8 modules, and also 8 weeks long. So almost always that's 1 module per week, but it doesn't always have to be. Sometimes the introduction module is organized by content. The introduction module might be really, really short, take half an hour there, and then the module 2 is set up to go for 2 weeks, and then module 3 is another short one. So it can vary, but almost everybody does it 1 module per week. So you come over to modules and let me switch to the view, you'll see. I switch to the student view because I have extra ones on here. Right at the top, you'll see this new perspectives on computers. That's linked to the textbook. It's not on the ThinkGauge dashboard. I probably should have mentioned that. After you go in this way, it might show up on the ThinkGauge dashboard. If you go follow this link, it will just open that in a new tab. And then the Ivy Learning has all of the sign-in information, things like that. Actually, I'm gonna go back and go into my regular account. I just did a factory reset on my computers. I have multiple laptops, so I switched it up. I tried without at least a Windows machine, a Mac, a Linux machine, a Chromebook. That way, if somebody has questions, I can pull out the same type of computer to address questions and stuff. So the book looks like this. It originally had a bunch of mind map things, also exercises and videos. Had those kind of videos that they took away all the controls, so you had to watch it at normal speed. You couldn't speed up, slow down. If you tried to pause it, it restarted. And some of those videos were from like the early 1980s. So I just turned all those off. But the textbook that was affiliated with that, I really, really liked. So when you go follow that link through over there on the right, which is behind the Zoom phone walls on the TVs in the room. So let me move on. Over here on the right, about halfway down is the full book one. And all of the weekly quizzes are, I'll use the word based off this textbook. There's a whole lot of copy and paste. So there's a lot of Control C, Control V when I wrote the quizzes. So Control F will be very, very useful for when you're going through those quizzes. Yeah, and from here, y'all know what a book is. Books are like our table of contents. The reader button can be really useful as well. Every page in here does have the reader button, so you can just click that and listen to it like an audiobook. That was one thing I liked about this. The other ones I looked at, it might have a couple of those, but you would need extra software to actually listen to an audiobook. I know a lot of people like to do that. Just leave the book playing while they're doing things and multitasking, even though people always advise us not to do that. We all do it anyway. So might as well go with it. So that's where the book is. It's different than where most of your course books will be. I think after you've gone there once, it will show up on your Cengage dashboard. That's why I left the link here. If not, it's right there in modules. That's sort of the main spot you want to go to in all your classes. The modules is the recommended order for that. So next thing I want to talk about briefly, not necessarily just for this class, but a general one for all of your Ivy Tech courses. It's the course outline record, all the official listing, how many credit hours it is, if there's any prerequisites or co-requisites, anything you have to take first or at least at the same time. Whole bonds, the credit hours, contact hours, all of that stuff, the general description, but then down here is the big one. Major course learning objectives. Uh, every course you take here at Navy Tech in the syllabus will have the core pasted in, and all of them will have this major course learning objectives. This is the list of things we're supposed to be learning from this course. So obviously the important thing, and I like to point it out, and I will do so again around week 6 or 7. In all of your courses near the end of the semester, come back and check this list. So that's the checklist. If that course is a prerequisite for something else, when you get into that next course, they're going to expect you to know those things on that list. So near the end of the semester, you always want to check these lists, and if there's and those are the questions you want to ask. Make sure you're comfortable with everything on that list. That's the stuff you're supposed to learn from the course, so you want to double check. And those should be the first questions to ask if you have questions. I will remind you about that about week 6 or 7, and not just for this course, but every single Navy Tech course. I will leave it to you to decide which ones are most important to do that on for whatever pathway you're heading down. So everybody's heading down a different pathway, right? There's some obvious stuff, you can read through all of that. Time names taken very, very seriously, like everywhere else in America. I think everybody knows how harassment is viewed in our modern world. Definitely, this is a school, and any issues there will be taken to the utmost extreme, taken very, very seriously. For high schoolers taking college courses, that's another situation where any violations would still, even if you're below that arbitrary 18-year-old line, if you're in a college course, you're an adult. So violations there would be counted. That's another one where violations would be counted as adult. Instructional method. So get in back to our course. So learn anywhere course. I'll be here in the classroom every time in the Zoom call. It is learn anywhere, not any time. It is a synchronous course. I have some things that we'll do, like when we get to the hardware section next week. That closet is full of machines that we'll take apart. Take apart at least a desktop and a server, and I'll bring in a couple other devices. I'm sure I have a phone somewhere, at least a desktop, a server, and a phone, maybe a laptop, and then we can compare them side by side and see what's the same, what's different between them. Take them apart, put them back together, and try to do hands-on things. So yeah, you will often hear me referring to this as the vocabulary class, but we're gonna do things like take apart machines and put them back together, bring in all the tools. Depending on the room, I'll bring soldering iron and show you some tips on soldering and stuff. If anybody's interested in that, out in the courtyard, obviously not in a classroom. Solder does contain lead, so it should be done in an open, well ventilated area. It can be a useful thing. So there's a lot of hands-on stuff, but yeah, it's learn anywhere, not anytime. That would be online classes are asynchronous. It is a synchronous class. That's the one. This course is synchronous format, not asynchronous format. We do kind of meet at the same time. Have meeting times. Everybody here is well aware of that. That's why we're here right now, right? Due dates, deadlines. So these are different in my class than some of your others. And most all your classes, for those, this is your first time you take class, you'll find them very soon. Pretty much every class, your homework is going to be due at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night. I don't do it that way. For one, that's not good practice for the real world. We're supposed to be here preparing for something, and 11:59 p.m. on a Sunday night is not something that's going to show up in your work week. So it doesn't seem like good practice. Things change. So, and another thing that happened that I never liked on my way to school was I want to make sure there's a chance to ask questions. The time I remember in particular, I tried to email the instructor a question over the weekend and was told, ask in class. But for that particular class, homework was due at the beginning of the class. It was 9:30 in the morning. If you tried to turn your homework in at 9:31, it was not accepted, which meant asking class meant that I could not get the question answered until after the homework was due. And that really, really bothered me. So I always try to make sure there's a chance to ask questions. So this is the Tuesday, Thursday class. So our homework will be due on, for the most part, is due on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that way we get to the Tuesday class and there's a chance to ask a question. So module 1 homework will be due next Tuesday when we started. Our lecture will start into module 2, but there's a chance to ask the question before things are actually due. There's a late penalty, and the late penalty varies. Some things can be turned in until the end of the semester. Some things lock immediately. Discussion boards will lock down by the nature of them. That's supposed to be the asynchronous alternative to what would happen around the classroom. Like traditionally, everybody comes to class at the same time, this is a lecture, heads back to the parking lot at the same time. So on the way down the hallway after class, you and your classmates would have little conversations. That stuff does contribute to your education and is completely missing. Discussion boards were supposed to pull a form of that. They didn't do so great of a job, so most people have kind of just turned them into essay assignments. But it's still a discussion, right? It's back and forth. It's not pure research essay. It's not super formal. There's still that back and forth. And discussion is the key thing. Those close when at the time that final deadline, and there's actually multiple due dates on the discussion before we get there. You have a date to post stuff, and then there's a couple more days to reply to everything. And that, so there's several due dates along the way, and then they'll close. It's just like if you showed up with a party and your friends walk in the door and your friends told you just missed the greatest conversation ever. You can't bring it back up. You missed it. So I can't treat discussion boards that way, the discussion topic. Anything listed as an assignment, most things listed as assignments can go right up to the end of the semester. You have to 11:59 p.m. on July 30th. Put that in here somewhere. Oh yes, July 30th, 11:59 p.m. Is when everything will close and lock. There is a point deduction, it's 3% per day for things being late. Quizzes, you only have 1 extra week to do those. So 7 days from the due date, and the late penalty will apply. Then the quiz will log. Late penalties do stop at 50%, which I also stop at 50% when I'm grading. The high F is still recoverable from. If I start grading and it gets all the way down to an F, I stop grading. That way, it's still high enough for. It's still recoverable, but it's still a failing grade. And the late penalty also does the same thing. It stops at 50%. So even if you didn't get a module 1 assignment turn in, you got really busy and stay busy all summer, so get up to module 8 and you're skirting the edge on the points there when turning that module 1, you still get 50% of the points on it. So it's still worth it to turn in too. It is automatic and computer tracking it. So 12/8 things are due at 11:59 p.m. So the stroke of midnight, we'll have that late penalty applied. I'm pretty laid back, easygoing person, so I understand things happen. I grant exemptions, but sometimes that would get taken advantage of. So I did have a clause in there last spring. There is a limit on those exemptions. I came out with in module 1, the due date for module 1 homework, somebody asked if they could have just a little more time. That's the exact quote. I have a little more time on week 1 homework. I was like, sure, no problem. Didn't get any homework until the first assignment came in Thursday, the last week of the semester, when things closed on Sunday. I was like, oh, that was a little more homework than we only discussed it for module 1. not the first time that's happened. Someone hadn't added this, so there's a default. If you need a little extra time, expect 3 days. That's going to be the standard exemption, but there's I understand things happening. So if you let me know what's going on, we'll work with what it is. But expect a limit if you ask for a little extra time on, and that's for the late penalty. So like if you got really busy, work all during, when you work triple shifts all weekend or something, and you really could have used the money and you have time to do your homework and you're just completely exhausted after that. I understand. So give that 3 day extension, then get time to catch up on rest to get the homework done by Friday or something. Without late penalty. Setup assignment. I don't think we have any in this course. This is my general policy. If you have me for other courses here, setup assignment, you only have that week to turn them in. Obviously, you have to install software or something for the course. You can't do the rest of the homework without it. You can only get points for it the first week. You can only get points up to the due date. Discussion boards closed. Quizzes, you get 1 week to do those. Exams are completely different. Exams are a calendar schedule. So exams open at 12 a.m. on Sunday and close at 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. So it's a calendar schedule, and I will remind you about that. We have a final exam in Module 8. But I will remind you about that. The big thing is that it's due. There's type of weeks. I set them up on the calendar schedule. I'm not sure why that says Monday and Sunday. It goes Sunday to Saturday. I'll fix that typo afterwards. I can do that. Typo in syllabus. I'll get that fixed right afterwards, but I'll remind you that week. Because hopefully that makes sense, and it also makes it so that the last minute in our class is not the same as last minute in your other classes. So a lot of people put things off the last minute. And if you have like 3 classes and everything last minute is the same in all 3 of them, you're going to be extra. So I like to give a different last minute. A couple important dates to notice. There's drop dates. So up through June 12th, which is next Monday, you drop the course. Anybody have an old phone? This doesn't apply to anybody here today. If I haven't heard anything from you by June 13th, I'll assume you're not coming to class. So everybody here today, I don't know from you, so you're not on that list. But the ones that never show up for class, never do anything, just assume there's a little error. And a drop is different than a withdrawal. So a drop, that's basically the first week, you only have a couple days. That's for times when I sign up for classes and you're reading the descriptions, maybe near the end, and you see a class, the description sounds perfect. It's like, oh, that sounds perfect for what I want to do. So you sign up for that class, show up the first day and discover you already took the class and just change the name of it since you took it. Right? There's no need to take it again. So you would drop it and register for something else. And then that disappears from your transcript. It's like you never registered for it to begin with. So little registration errors. Withdrawal is when you're, it's most of the way through the class. We can withdraw up to July 16th. And that one still shows up in the transcript. It shows up as a W, which Agritech does do a replace. So when you come back to take the course again, afterwards, it gets replaced with the grade there. But that's when those times when life gets overwhelming, right? Family members go to the hospital and all the schoolwork has to take a major backseat to that. And to avoid getting an F on the transcript, you just get that W that'll get replaced later because the F would mess up the GPA and all that. Consciously know you're not going to do well, not going to properly finish the class. That's when you would withdraw. And after that, July 16th is the last day you can withdraw a special permission. after that, if stuff happens, like life shows up, sometimes things happen. You can still withdraw, but you just have to get special permission after that day. Talk to a bunch of people, go over what's going on. I think that was most of the major points I wanted to talk about. Communication, etiquette, be polite, nice to each other. This the standard conventions of communication to everybody. You can see those. Let's see here. There's also some attendance points, attendance and participation. This is synchronous format. You have the time things. There's hands-on stuff we'll do a couple times through the semester. But some people always show up diligently, do all the work on timely schedule, and do really, really well. And I'm pretty laid back on the grades. So other people might very rarely show up to class and get homework turned in late and things like that. Not very late, so there's just small deductions and stuff. And I'm pretty laid back when I'm doing the grading. So I want to do something. It's supposed to be just like a small bonus for people that work really hard in the class. So it comes out to 7%. At the end of the semester, whatever points, we're starting out with 975 points. Maybe some other assignments show up along the way. Maybe something to drop along the way. But at the end of the semester, whatever points it's worth, I'll figure out what I'll make that 93% of the grade. So the last little bit there, pretty much what it would take to get the A is for the people that get the attendance and participation points. It's on the assignment somewhere. I think I wrote down 87 points just as arbitrary number, but that's what it will be for 1,000 points. But it's like 7% of the grade, and there will be start doing it in the spring. At least one in-class assignment. It won't be tons of points. It's not a make or break assignment. But there'll be at least one thing that we do in class. Really follow along sort of example, and kind of have to be in class to get those points. The submission instruction will just say submit the file from class here or something like that. So there are attendance and participation points, which is kind of the last 10% of the grade. So most of the A range is on that attendance and participation. If everybody comes to that. So let's see, I was planning on taking a break about 2 o'clock. So let's start looking at some of the things. I'll start with here with this report. I include this and just all my classes, new technology report. No matter what field you're getting in, you decide whether you don't like IT and switch something up, you're gonna go be an accountant. Whatever field you're in, you want to stay up to date on the field. Things are dynamic. IT is exaggerated because IT is very dynamic, so there's a lot more to stay up to date on. So we'll get some practice on that. I give this in basically every assignment, I give this assignment in every class. Sorry, I had a lot of trouble with that sentence. I give this assignment in all the classes, so if you have me for more classes, you'll see it again. But just a quick report, so not necessarily you don't need to come up with a thesis that you're trying to support with evidence and stuff. Just talking about some of the technologies out there. 1 to 2 pages in total. Find 3 new pieces of technology from the last 6 months and write a paragraph or 2 on each one. But essays haven't changed since the 1920s. Before computers were even invented. We can do better than that, right? So there's alternative formats. I put this in module 1, so you know that it's not due until the end of the semester. So you have to July 30th to do this. It's actually in a couple modules to remind you. I included links here for good places to look up to stay up to date on technology. So like SD Times, it's still called a magazine. This one actually still publish a magazine once a month or something. But those little articles, Just look through there, see what the latest changes for software development are, and then do a report on some of that stuff. Dig a little deeper if you want to give it a try run. But essays are boring. We can do better. It's a report, so when first things pops in my mind, it's like a news report. You know, video, make a little, do a report. This number here is just from sitting down and reading. I took something that was about the right length and sat down and started recording while I read through it, and it came out to about 8 minutes. Like, okay, that seems like a good thing to start out, but the expectation would be the same content that you would put in a 1 to 2 page essay. Maybe a little bit better if you're doing video, so you can try the software and do things like that. But 8 to 10 minutes seemed reasonable, but that is still kind of a guess because it's a new format, and I'm not sure how 1 to 2 pages translates to video exactly. But something like a news report on those articles, do that format, or a blog. Then you can add colors and pictures and make it look a whole lot nicer than an essay. It'd still be basically the written form, so you could always just hit Control P and see if it comes out to the right link for an essay on that one. I just had a podcast. I've been asking the speech teachers if they have advice for podcasts. I didn't really have much advice for podcasts. I wanted to put something in there, but get some audio recording stuff and just talk about it. The only advice I really have for the podcast is don't write a script for it. Maybe some rough notes, because if you write a script, it will very obviously be reading off the script. That sounds weird. We can hear that in voices. You all have probably heard that in podcasts before, right? The people that just sit in front of a microphone and talk about the content versus the people that are clearly reading off a script. There's a big difference in the part. But alternate formats. The point is just look up 3 new technologies from the last 6 months or so and go into those. If you go into cybersecurity, if you're a cybersecurity person and want to look up cybersecurity stuff, please look up something that can be explained like technological. So if there was a breach yesterday and people aren't really sure what happened or how it was fixed or anything, that's not new technology. Once it's been analyzed and you can talk about how it happened and what was done to stop it and actually analyze it thoroughly, then that would happen. So it wouldn't be the latest of security breaches, not like alarming news, but the technological viewpoint on those. What software did they use to get in, that sort of thing. But there's no shortage of new technology coming out. NVIDIA had some really interesting things at their conference in March. Yeah, around the middle of March, NVIDIA had some great announcements at their NVIDIA is huge. Their GTC conference is a week long and takes place in more than around the world. Like they have to stop certain things from translating on the web page flyers for it. And people clearly know that if it's not in the language they speak. They go, this is all happening in Tokyo, nobody there's translating in English. So make sure it only shows up in Japanese on the page. And they had some really interesting ones. Apple just did those recently. Apple's annual conferences kind of changed. Like they stopped making it the announcement of the technology. Everybody knows that they're going to announce it. Apple's has kind of become like a 3-day commercial, but they still have some still have good stuff to talk about. There's no shortage of technology advancements, and that's just due by the end of the summer. July 30th, last day of the summer semester. In general, what we have, I mentioned it's a vocabulary class. At the beginning, I'm going to be speaking mostly English. And near the end, there's going to be a lot more technical, speaking more technical. So we'll make that transition. Learn to speak like an IT person. Make sure we're using all the words correctly and things, and those little variances, because sometimes the technical correct isn't something anybody would ever say. databases are a good example of that. We go to the file explorer, the files and folders on a computer. Technically, that's a hierarchical database, but you would never call it that. We need to know about that technicality. But even if you were talking to other people that know that technicality, if you actually called the files and folders, all the directory structure on your computer a hierarchical database, everybody's just going to look at you like you're out. So using the terms correctly and also knowing which ones to use and not use, which technical when it's too technical. There's also foundational skills, and I think in the modern world this is fairly straightforward, hopefully easy for everybody. But these are the ones that we want to take for granted on the rest of the way through college. And all of your other courses, if something needs written, the instructor wants to be able to just say, okay, open up a word processor and do this. And take for granted that you know how to use a word processor. Or in module 3, it's spreadsheets. One of them is building a slide deck. I did the normal refer to Microsoft stuff, so it said Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and Excel. But personally, I'm a Google Docs user. I have multiple systems. I walk around with a really heavy backpack because I've got the PC laptop, a notebook, a Chromebook, and a Linux virtual machine. So if somebody has a question, I can pull up. I can use the same system they're using. So I have Pages and LibreOffice. I'm a Google Docs user. So whichever one you normally use, it's fine. It's not a restriction that you have to use Microsoft Word, as long as you know how to use a document editor and the difference between a document editor and a text editor. But all those things we want to take for granted, right? In a class 3 semesters from now, if your instructor says, make a PowerPoint for this assignment, they want to be able to trust that you know how to make a PowerPoint. So just a little confirmation on that. We want to do sort of the confirmation assignments. If you have any questions about that, let me know. If something gets missed when I'm grading it, there's a rubric on those. So when I grade them, I do go straight down the rubric checkbox. There's instructions, but really what I'll be looking at the rubric here. So if you want to do something else from the instructions, that would be fine. It won't hurt my feelings. I'll just go down this checkbox as long as I get boxes. That's what I'm on. But there is some instructions, just follow along on all of them. I also have these GRE labs. And then obviously the reading and a quiz based off of reading every week. Those foundational skills, there's 4 of those. And every week there's a lab. So GRE, general routing encapsulation. So this computer lab we're in here on campus, those are on campus, we call this one of the GRE labs. It's a Cisco protocol that gives us a little, I'm trying to avoid using the word network. It gives us a little private space inside of the Ivy Tech network. So we have different permissions here. I'm trying to avoid referring to a VPN because it is different than a GRE is different than a VPN. That's a virtual private network. So effectively, it's kind of like that, only we can't just change authorizations and access and permissions in a virtual private network. It just gives us a private way to access it. This is like a separate network inside of the Ivy Tech network. So we have enough to learn, we have permission to properly learn ID on the computers in here. We can do more things. Well, like any school, the general Ivy Tech computers are locked down to the point it's hard to do anything. And we just got new computers in here. They'll have nice, the GRE labs, every Ivy Tech has them because every Ivy Tech campus has them because school ID is definitely one that shows up at every Ivy Tech campus. The GRE labs get the new computers first. After we use them for a couple of years, then those go to the other normal computer labs and the other classrooms around Ivy Tech. So we just got the new ones in. They were installed over the break. They're real a whole lot faster. If you've used other computers at Ivy Tech, just log on to those ones to see what they're like. But so this is to access those, and you do not have to come to campus for it. And if you're here on campus, I would ask that you just remotely access. And when you use one of these computers, I would ask that you remotely access a different one than the one you're sitting at. Because part of it, the only thing the IT person needs to be on site for is to deal with loose cables. Anything else we can do remotely. So in particular, you'll be remotely accessing, there's 12 computers in that classroom. They don't have screens or keyboards or anything on them. We to go ahead and separate it. Usually half of these were available for that, and then we just moved them all to the closet. Got some more space here because they still have monitors and keyboards hooked up to them. Just 12 power sitting in there, so we'll just remotely access them. Here is the guest account, and it's not your regular Ivy Tech username and email. It's not your regular Ivy Tech account. We have our own little sub network inside of it. That's not specific. I shouldn't use that word either. We have a GRE lab, but we have a GRE network, but for most people, it's probably a couple classes away before trying to describe what general encapsulation actually is. It's a custom Cisco protocol. But think of it as a little network. We have our own network here. So we need to add, we have to set up our accounts. So that's what this lab does, is walk you through there. There's and it's kind of an example of all the labs. Step-by-step instructions. There's not stumbling blocks and things to trip you up on. It's hands-on getting practice, how you access the computer and what's different. There's a lot of things in the same. We do anything from through remote access, but there are those little differences like taking from everything. So there's probably a lot going on there right now. But the instructions just go step by step. Shouldn't be anything too tricky, but there's little things you want to practice with. You can do anything remote, but how do we copy and paste? If you always use Control C and Control V, and you remotely access another computer, is it still Control C and Control V on that other computer? Or is Control C and Control V still on your local computer? The little things like that. So go through those steps and maybe try some other stuff, mess around with things, because it's to see those little differences, to see what is different when you do that. And every week there's going to be a lab, but you will need to set up a account on the GRE labs. Generally that account doesn't get erased between semesters, but other times we're in here alone. Things sometimes get broken. So sometimes in the middle of the semester, all those accounts get erased. But the thing we ask is that whenever you set it up, you just remotely access the computer, and actually I can share it, I can pull it up here. And when you first do that, I'll go over to the computer here. Whenever you log on, there's it looks like a browser icon, says SLIT help desk, so School of IT help desk. If you go in here, there's a little form to fill out. I think in the instructions, I actually went through the steps to switch to Google Chrome or Firefox before actually going to it. Make that one of those the default browser. But if there's an issue, something breaks along the way, just submit a ticket or the second link request an account. And you'll just fill out the form. What course is it? You can just put Informatics 109. My name, just enter your name, enter your Ivy Tech email. Your username will be the first part. It won't have the @IvyTech. So the Ivy Tech username, but it's a separate account. And for your password, there are some times where we use these, so we might need to look it up or something. So we do ask for your password, just use your C number. Does everybody know their C number? Know how to find it? I see head nods. one place you can get it from my Ivy, where the regular email is and all that. I should have went to my computer. My computer knows what that's what it is. Oh, I should point out that. So, notice I was standing in the middle of the room on my laptop. If anybody on the Zoom call or wants to use Zoom call to send a direct message or something, I'm almost always on my laptop. So if you send it to the one that has my full name spelled out, that's just on the room computer, so I can use the good microphone and camera on the Zoom call. Make sure you use the one that says Chris, and it'll say what computer it is if you send direct messages or something. It doesn't happen a lot, but some people like to do that or ask questions through a DM instead of out loud. Okay, that's no preference. Yeah, if you go into my Ivy where your email is and everything, your C number will be right there. So whenever you set up your account, please use your C number for the password and write down and keep track of it. You can be looked back up. And there's a couple other things that happen, and the obvious point from that, whoops, that's not what I meant to click. I'll just use this next. The obvious point from that is don't put private information on these computers, because your password is a publicly available school ID number. So it also encourages that. It's not a secure location. These computers are also frozen, as mentioned in the lab manual. So in general, treat it like every login is going to be the first login. It's great for learning things because then we can break whatever we want. All we gotta do is restart the computer and it's the very first login again. Not so great for storing your homework out. So make sure you send it to someplace you can get it. Email it to yourself, put it on Google Drive, Dropbox, whatever storage you would normally use, make sure you send it before you log off the computer. So a few notes there about getting started. Does anybody have any questions? Just policies and stuff. Gotta get those knocked out. There's a bunch of talking. Probably a good time for a break. Right? It's 10 minutes on good to everybody. As he head nods in here. So my laptop says 209. So we'll get back to it at 219 with some content, and this is Informatics 109. So we'll start by talking about what informatics is. I'll see you all in just a moment. Stop the recording.